Smith624 here, and we are here with some Dead by Daylight Shrine of the Week update. It's a couple days late, technically 2. I mean, it's only a day late, but it's technically 2. But, regardless, the Shrine of Secrets has updated, and oh boy, does it have some crazy shit this week. Now, I'm going to start out by saying this week is a great week if you are a killer, and just a decent week if you are a survivor main. For the survivors, the only skill you have this week is Iron Will, but Iron Will is not a bad perk in the slightest. Because if you tend to like to play the bold character against killers that don't have one-shot downs, play like the bold character that goes and saves people and then usually gets hit afterwards, Iron Will is a perk for you, because when you're crouching, you are like crouching and staying still. You are pretty much undetectable making noise while you're injured with Iron Will. It is a great perk to have if you like to be bold and stealthy at the same time, and I highly recommend it for survival. Now, the other 3 perks this week are all for killer, and oh my god, they are all great. We have Strider, which makes it so... Strider is pretty much the counter to Iron Will, actually. Because Strider makes it so when survivors are breathing in pain, they're even louder. So if they aren't running Iron Will, then you hear them 25% better regardless, so they make so much more noise. And if they are running Iron Will, then it's only a 25% increase instead of a 50% increase for Iron Will for the survivor. Next up, I mean, this one is probably the weakest of the 3 up here, but it's still a great perk. Next up, though, is Agitation. Agitation is a great perk if you generally have issues getting a survivor to a hook after downing them. Because you may be able to get a whole bunch of survivors down, but it doesn't really do much if you aren't running Iron Grasp or something, or there aren't any hooks nearby, because survivors have been destroying your hooks and all of that. Well, Agitation is one of the 2 answers for that. Agitation makes it so you move 6% faster while transporting a barrier, and your terror radius increased by 6 meters. So if you're playing the Doctor, this is even greater, but just that 6% speed boost is intense, and that's only at rank 1. I believe at rank 3, I want to say it's a 20% increase. I may be wrong about that. It might only be like a 15. But that speed boost is fucking insane. Let me just double check it real quick for Agitation. Because getting Agitation on, if you run Agitation and Iron Grasp at the same time, if you get someone down, you're getting them on a hook. It's not really possible for them to break out. I mean, it's kind of a, as survivors would call it, a dick move. Like, you really had to run both of those perks, but fuck that. Agitation is a great perk, and so is fucking... Okay, really, Ava? You gonna make all this noise right now? Hello. But Agitation is a great perk. Yeah, okay, so it's 18%. So it goes up by 6% with each level of the perk. So 18% increase at level 3, and your terror radius is a little bit bigger as well. It goes up to 12 meters. But I mean, that's really not that bad, all things considered, because having a 12% increase while carrying someone isn't really that big of a deal. And it's even better if you're actually like the Doctor, because then shock therapy can still hit them and make them go insane while you are carrying someone. So Agitation and Iron Grasp work well together, but if you're going to run one and you don't have... If you have the option between the 2, I generally like choose Agitation over Iron Grasp. But if you have both, I recommend running both. And then finally, one of the coolest perks is, or probably the best perks of this setup is Hex Ruin. Hex Ruin makes it so at level 3, I believe all 4 survivors are affected, or if not all 3, 2 of the survivors are affected. Let me double check that real quick as well, just make sure I have that correct. Yeah, it affects all 4 survivors at rank 3. But at rank 2, just affecting 2 survivors, personally, this may sound weird, but I like having Hex Ruin at rank 2 and keeping it at rank 2, at least on the Hag, because then you have one survivor who is clueless about the Hex, isn't really going out of their way to look for it, while you still have 3 being affected by it. And on top of that, good skill checks result in a 5% regression for it every time they get a good skill check, and a great skill check makes it a 0% regression. This is a great way if the survivors are just repairing 2 generators way too fast for you, and you want to put a stop to that. Hex Ruin is probably the perk for you to do that. Hex Ruin plus Overcharge is a great way to elongate a game, making it much harder for the survivor to get a generator done, because once they have generators done, or once they even started a generator, then you have the option to kick it. With Overcharge, it makes it so it's even harder for them to repair the generator, and if they fail the skill check, it will result in a 3% regression at rank 1, 4% regression at rank 2, and a 5% regression at rank 5. It is a tremendous perk to team up with Overcharge. Overcharge and Hex Ruin, those two are a match made in heaven if you need to make it so your survivors don't fix generators fast at all. The only thing about Overcharge, by the way, though, is if you are going to run it, you need to make sure that you actually are kicking the generator, so that way you get the bonus of Overcharge on those generators. Otherwise, you're just wasting a perk slot. But no, Hex Ruin is definitely a great perk to have. The only downside to Hex Ruin is that it is a hex, which means it will appear on a totem, which means you will probably have to defend it in some way, shape, or form, so that way they don't destroy it. Because once it's destroyed, the hex no longer is in effect. That is the one downside to running hex perks, and why I generally tend to stay away from them. But if you're playing a killer that can protect their hexes, or can keep an eye on their hexes, or is running Thrill of the Hunt to help protect their hexes, then by all means, keep. And then Hex Ruin is a great perk for you. I don't know what I was about to say with keep. My brain just shut off for a second. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week for the Shrine of Secrets. If you wanted a recommendation for me personally, I would say the best perk up here for Killer is probably, in my opinion, Agitation, with Hex Ruin being a very close second. In fact, you could probably swap the two. They're both amazing perks, but I know hexes are generally a little harder to protect for some killers, especially newer killers, so Agitation is generally a better way to go to help you secure those hooks, make sure you aren't getting blocked as easily by survivors once you pick someone up and all of that, and so you can get them to the hooks properly without getting fucked. But that's just my opinion on it. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion in the comment section below, and I will see you next time, guys. I've been your host, GSmith624.